When HOA President Margaret screamed at my disabled daughter for feeding birds, calling them pests, and threatening fines, she made a huge mistake. She thought she was bullying a helpless family. She had no idea I'm the attorney who specializes in taking down corrupt officials like her. Before watching full story, comment below from where are you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The morning sun painted golden streaks across our backyard as I watched my 12-year-old daughter Emma through the kitchen window. She sat in her wheelchair at the edge of our patio, a bag of birdseed in her lap, her face lit up with pure joy as cardinals, sparrows, and blue jays gathered around her feet. Emma had been born with spina bifida. While other kids her age were running around playgrounds, she found her happiness in quieter moments like this. The birds had become her closest friends over the past year since we moved to Meadowbrook Estates, an upscale HOA community where I thought she could have a peaceful childhood. "Good morning, Mr. Robin," she whispered to a red-breasted bird perched near her wheelchair. "Did you bring your family today?" My heart swelled watching her gentle interactions with these creatures. After 3 surgeries and countless therapy sessions, Emma had found something that brought her genuine happiness. The birds seemed to understand her gentle spirit, gathering around her each morning like she was Snow White herself. I was about to step outside to join her when I heard the sharp clip of heels on concrete. My stomach dropped as I recognized the sound. Margaret Wellington, the HOA president, was marching toward our backyard with her usual stern expression and clipboard in hand. Margaret was everything I despised about HOA culture. A woman in her 50s who treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom, she had made it her mission to enforce every single rule with military precision. Her perfectly styled gray hair never moved, even in strong wind, and her designer clothes always looked pressed and spotless. "Excuse me." Margaret's shrill voice cut through the morning peace. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Emma looked up, startled. The birds scattered in fear, and I watched my daughter's face crumble with disappointment. "I was just feeding my friends," Emma said softly, clutching the bag of seeds tighter. "Friends?" Margaret laughed coldly. "These are pests. And you're violating Section 4.7 of the HOA guidelines, which clearly states that feeding wildlife is strictly prohibited. You're creating a public nuisance." I rushed outside, my protective instincts kicking in. "Margaret, she's just a child feeding some birds. What's the harm?" Margaret turned to me with disgust. "The harm, Mr. Peterson, is property values. These birds leave droppings everywhere, they're noisy, and they attract rodents. Your daughter's little hobby is affecting the entire neighborhood." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But they were hungry. The baby sparrow couldn't find food yesterday and—" "I don't care about your sob story," Margaret snapped. "The rules are the rules. Stop this immediately or face a fine." The cruelty in her voice toward my disabled daughter made my blood boil. "She'll be 12 next month, Margaret. She's not hurting anyone. Age doesn't matter. Disability doesn't give her special privileges to break community rules." Margaret's eyes were ice cold. "Clean up this mess and make sure it never happens again. Consider this your only warning." As Margaret stalked away, Emma broke down sobbing. "Daddy, I just wanted to help them. The little ones get so hungry." I knelt beside her wheelchair and pulled her into my arms. "I know, sweetheart. You have the kindest heart in the world." That evening, I found Emma in her room, staring out the window at the empty bird feeders I had reluctantly removed. "Daddy, why does that lady hate the birds so much?" she asked. "Some people have forgotten how to see beauty in simple things," I said, stroking her hair. "Will my bird friends be okay without me?" The break in her voice shattered something inside me. This wasn't just about birds anymore. This was about my daughter's spirit being crushed by someone's power trip. The next morning, Margaret was back. This time she brought the HOA security officer, a young man named Jake who looked uncomfortable with the situation. Emma was sitting in her usual spot, but instead of seed, she had a sketch pad and was drawing the birds from memory. "She's still attracting them," Margaret shrieked, pointing at 2 cardinals perched on our fence. "Look, they're everywhere. This is unacceptable." "She's just drawing," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "The birds are here because of her previous feeding. This is ongoing violation." Margaret turned to Jake. "Issue the citation." Jake hesitated. "Ma'am, she's not actually feeding them anymore." "Are you questioning my authority?" Margaret's voice rose dangerously. Emma looked up from her drawing. "Please don't be mad at Jake. He's nice. He always waves at me." Margaret's face twisted with rage. "You little—" She caught herself, but the damage was done. "This ends now. One more incident and I'm calling animal control to remove every bird from this neighborhood." After they left, Emma was inconsolable. She wants to hurt my friends, doesn't she, Daddy? That night I made a decision. Margaret Wellington had no idea who she was dealing with. You see, I had been deliberately quiet about my profession since moving to Meadowbrook Estates. I wanted Emma to make friends based on who she was, not what her father did for a living. But Margaret had just declared war on the wrong family. I spent the weekend making some calls and doing research. What I discovered about Margaret and the HOA's finances made my attorney's instincts tingle. Monday morning arrived with autumn rain. Emma sat by the window watching the empty yard sadly. Daddy, Mr. Robin came by yesterday. He looked confused about where the food was. I know, baby. But I have some good news. We're going to fix this. At precisely 10 a.m. I knocked on Margaret's door. She answered wearing a silk robe and an annoyed expression. If you're here to grovel about your daughter's behavior. Actually, I'm here as an attorney representing the Peterson family in a lawsuit against the Meadowbrook Estates HOA. Her face went pale. A lawsuit, for what? I handed her an envelope. Discrimination against a disabled minor, harassment, and violation of the Fair Housing Act. But that's just the beginning. Margaret's hands shook as she opened the documents. This is ridiculous. I was enforcing community standards. Were you? Because I've spent the weekend reviewing HOA financial records. Interesting how your consulting fees have tripled since you became president. Her eyes went wide. That has nothing to do with... It has everything to do with this. See, when you target a disabled child, people start paying attention. And when they pay attention, they notice other things. Like how the pool maintenance contract went to your brother-in-law's company at twice the market rate. Or how the landscaping budget disappeared into administrative costs. Margaret stumbled backward. You can't prove anything. Margaret, I specialize in corporate fraud. This is what I do for a living. And right now, I'm doing it for free because you made my daughter cry. The color drained completely from her face. What do you want? I want the bird feeding ban removed from the HOA guidelines immediately. I want a written apology to my daughter. And I want you to resign from the HOA board. That's impossible. The community elected me. The community elected someone they thought was trustworthy. Wait until they see where their dues actually went. I smiled coldly. Oh, and Margaret? The FBI is very interested in HOA embezzlement cases these days. 3 hours later, Margaret called an emergency HOA meeting. The community center was packed with neighbors I barely knew. Emma sat beside me in her wheelchair, confused by all the attention. Margaret stood at the podium looking like she'd aged 10 years since morning. I'm here to announce some changes to our community guidelines and my resignation as HOA president. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Effective immediately, the bird feeding restriction is removed from our community standards. This change comes after reflection on what makes our neighborhood truly special. She paused, looking directly at Emma. I owe a particular apology to young Emma Peterson. She showed kindness and compassion that I failed to recognize. Emma, your love for wildlife makes our community better, not worse. Emma's eyes went wide with surprise and joy. Furthermore, I'm stepping down as president to address some personal matters requiring my immediate attention. After the meeting, something magical happened. Neighbors I'd never spoken to approached us. Emma's the little girl who feeds the birds? Asked Mrs. Chin from 3 houses down. My grandson loves watching her from our kitchen window. She's like a Disney princess, added teenage Sarah from across the street. It's the sweetest thing ever. Jake, the security officer, knelt beside Emma's wheelchair. I'm sorry about what happened. I tried to tell her you weren't doing anything wrong. It's okay, Emma smiled. You were just doing your job. Well, now my job includes making sure no one bothers you while you're feeding your friends. The next morning, I woke to the sound of Emma's delighted laughter. Looking out the kitchen window, I saw something that brought tears to my eyes. Emma sat in her usual spot with her bag of birdseed, surrounded not just by birds, but by 3 neighbor children who had come to help her feed them. Mrs. Chin was there too with a bag of sunflower seeds. Look, Daddy, Emma called out. Mr. Robin brought his whole family, and Sarah wants to learn their names. Over the following weeks, Emma's morning bird feeding became a neighborhood tradition. Children would stop by before school to help scatter seeds. Elderly residents would sit on nearby benches to watch the daily gathering. Someone even installed a small bench next to Emma's feeding area so visitors could sit comfortably. Margaret Wellington quietly moved away 2 months later, just before the FBI completed their investigation into HOA fund mismanagement. The community elected Jake as the new president, He was young, fair, and already beloved by residents. But the real change was in Emma. The girl who had been so crushed by one person's cruelty now glowed with confidence. She had learned that kindness attracts kindness, and that sometimes standing up to bullies brings communities together. One evening, as we watched the sunset together in our backyard, Emma looked up at me with serious eyes. "Daddy, why didn't you tell Margaret who you were at first?" I considered the question carefully. Because I wanted her to face consequences for her actions, not because she was afraid of me. I wanted her to learn that hurting people has real results. Do you think she learned? I think so, sweetheart. Sometimes people get so focused on rules that they forget about being kind. Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I'm glad you're my daddy. You protect people, don't you?" I tried it, Emma. "Especially when they can't protect themselves." She smiled and turned back to watch a family of cardinals pecking at seeds near her wheelchair. "Next week is my birthday. Can we have a bird-watching party?" "Absolutely. We'll invite everyone." And we did. Emma's 12th birthday party was held in our backyard, with 20 neighbors of all ages joining us. We had bird-watching stations, seed-making activities, and a cake decorated with her favorite cardinal family. Jake presented Emma with an official HOA certificate declaring her the Meadowbrook Estate's wildlife ambassador. Mrs. Chin gave her a hand-carved bird feeder made by her husband. Sarah organized a neighborhood collection to install a small fountain that would provide fresh water for Emma's feathered friends year-round. But the best gift came naturally. As we sang happy birthday, dozens of birds filled our backyard: cardinals, blue jays, sparrows, finches, and even a magnificent red-tailed hawk perching on our fence post. "Make a wish," I whispered to Emma as she prepared to blow out her candles. She closed her eyes tight, thought for a moment, then opened them with a brilliant smile. "I wished for Margaret to find something that makes her as happy as the birds make me." That's my Emma. Even after everything, her heart remained pure and forgiving. 6 months later, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Margaret, postmarked from a small town in Montana. "Mr. Peterson," it read, "I wanted you to know that I've spent these months in therapy, working through my anger and control issues. I've learned that I was deeply unhappy and took it out on others, especially your beautiful daughter. I volunteer at an animal rescue now. Yesterday, I helped nurse an injured sparrow back to health. When it flew away, I thought of Emma and how much joy she must feel every day. Please tell her that her kindness changed someone's life, even if it took me too long to realize it. Margaret." I shared the letter with Emma that evening. She listened quietly, then asked, "Can we write her back? I want to tell her about the baby robins that hatched in our maple tree." And that's exactly what we did. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy, it's in transforming them through the power of forgiveness and love. Emma is 13 now. Every morning she still feeds the birds, but now she's joined by children from all over the neighborhood. She started a junior naturalist club at school and dreams of becoming a veterinarian who specializes in wildlife rehabilitation. The birds still gather around her like she's magical. But now I understand the real magic. It was never about the birds at all. It was about a little girl whose pure heart could see beauty everywhere, even in the face of cruelty. And sometimes that kind of love really can change the world, one person at a time. Margaret Wellington thought she was dealing with just another rule-breaking family. She had no idea she was about to encounter the fierce love of a father protecting his disabled daughter, and the transformative power of a child's endless capacity for forgiveness. In the end, we all learned something important. True strength isn't about enforcing rules or wielding authority. It's about choosing kindness, standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, and never underestimating the power of love to heal even the hardest hearts.